Okay, so welcome everyone. Welcome to this webinar about qualifications for Czech or Slovak citizenship in 2025. I am your Marketing and Communications Director, Anouk, at Polaron. And before we jump into it, I would like to remind you all that there is a short Q&A at the end of this webinar, so please leave your comments and questions in the comment box below, and also subscribe to our YouTube channel and other social media platforms. Today we are going to cover who qualifies for Czech or Slovak citizenship through ancestry and what are common obstacles and how can you overcome them, as well as what does the application process and timeline look like. And we will also be sharing some success stories that we had in the past. I would like to introduce you to our moderator, Eva Hussain. She is our founder and director. Thank you so much for being here.
Hi, everyone.
And then we have our guest speaker, Jakub. He is our Czech and Slovak citizenship manager with great expertise in everything regarding Central European citizenship law. Thank you for being here, Jakub.
Hi, Anouk. Hi, Eva. It's great to be here.
And then a bit about Polaron. So we've been helping over 15,000 people since 2003 obtain their EU citizenship. We help with the whole process, from documentation to translations. And we also offer free eligibility assessments. So please don't hesitate to reach out to our experts. And then without further ado, I would like to hand it over to Eva.
Thank you so much, Anouk, and welcome everyone. We've been working on Czech and Slovak citizenship applications for a number of years now. I think it'll be probably close to 10, maybe even more. Yeah, 2013, I think we did the first one. And over that time, we have handled hundreds. And Jakub with his team in the Czech Republic helps us put them together. He does research. He also does what we call eligibility assessments, meaning that we check firstly before we do anything and free of charge whether you qualify for citizenship or not. I did want to ask you before we move on, Jakub, there's been discussions about changes of the law in Czechia. Is that right? Where's that at?
Yes, that's correct, Eva. So basically, there is bill of the law for Czech citizenship that suggests that even third or fourth generation would qualify for Czech citizenship. Now it's in the parliament and it's waiting for approval by members of the parliament, and it's been there for quite a few months already. So it's a question when it will be approved. We are, fingers crossed that it will be approved as soon as possible. We will have elections in September, so that can also complicate things. So I think it's a little bit politics now, but the good news is that there is, finished bill of the law that would even that would make even more people eligible for Czech citizenship, and now we just have to watch it closely and hope it will be approved as soon as possible.
And see what happens. So there's like a period of about 20 years, correct me if I'm wrong, that people do not qualify because of how the law operated at the time. And we will take you through this in a little bit more detail. But basically, after 1918, there was Czechoslovakia, which then became, split between Czech Republic and Slovakia. But in the meantime, these two countries were like a union. And citizenship laws were complicated as well at the time. And there was like a period of 20 years where that applies particularly to Americans, right? That people do not
exactly.
qualify.
So yeah, exactly. There were some injustices that this bill of the law is trying to, let's say, make correct.
Yes.
Because there is, as you said, one whole generation, basically, of people born between 1949 and 1969 that could have problems in some situations with their qualification for Czech citizenship, and it's especially people outside of the US. So yeah, this is quite an injustice, and this bill would fix it. And also the number of generations. So yeah, it would be a great thing if it would be approved. Yeah.
Yeah, but there's some other good news. So for those of you that don't know and are here just for Czech citizenship information, we also do other nationalities. We do German, we do Croatian, Polish, I think about 12 different ones. But Czech is the most efficient. And I think it's because of you, Jakub, but it's just, for some, you have to wait for years. We heard that for Italian citizenship, if you live in Brazil, you have to wait 11 years for an appointment. So
Oh,
take
wow.
heart. Yeah, because for Czech, how long does it take on average to get it done?
So for Czech, from the moment when we submit the application until the approval, officially it's up to 6 months, but in fact it's from 2 to 3 months. So it's
Wow.
very fast. And before that, we just need to collect some documents. So that takes like another 2 or 3 months. So in total, maybe 6 months, 8 months the most, which is,
Yeah.
yeah, as you said, probably great.
Yeah, no, it's amazing. And look, I'm going to get you to move to the next slide because I think we've covered background information, and I do want to leave a lot of time for questions for people. But Jakub, could you tell us? So we're talking about citizenship through descent, meaning that you have to be born Czech. What are the basic eligibility criteria? Like who qualifies? Could you take us through that?
So I would say the number one eligibility criteria is to have some Czech ancestor, and the biggest chance is if your parent or grandparent was Czech. There are some cases when it could be even great grandparent, but in that case, we would have to make sure that Czech or Czechoslovak citizenship never disappeared from your family. That means that your great grandparent, pass it to your grandparent, then to your parent, and then to you. So in these cases, sometimes it's worth checking, even if you have great grandparent, because you might be eligible. And basically, there are two main ways how you can become Czech by descent. And first is by birth. That means that you were born a Czech citizen, and now we just need a confirmation about it. And the second is not declaration, which means that either your parent or your grandparent lost their Czechoslovak citizenship in the past, for example, by naturalization in the US, and now you want it back. So they are very similar, but it's important to know according to which section you are qualifying.
Sure, sure. So you mentioned a couple of things that I just wanted to clarify. So, and we are going to be talking about historical events. So, can you just tell us what the difference between Czechoslovakian and Czech citizenship is? Because it is something that you've mentioned just now.
Right. So Czechoslovakia was country that was between 1918 and 1993 in place of today's Czech Republic and Slovakia, plus for a short time even part of Ukraine. And obviously, when there was Czechoslovakia, there was also Czechoslovak citizenship. So your ancestors most probably were Czechoslovak citizens when they left, for example, to UK, US, or other countries. But now these two countries are independent, Czech Republic and Slovakia. So we have a Czech citizenship and Slovak citizenship. We are doing both in Polaron, but it's important to assess if you qualify for Czech or qualify for Slovak. I would say the most likely key is to find a birthplace of your ancestors. If it's in today's Czech Republic, there's a huge chance that they will be Czech or you will be Czech citizen. And if it's in Slovakia, you may qualify for Slovak citizenship. And the reasons why it was one country is because the language is very similar. So we have Czech language, Slovaks have Slovak language, but we can understand each other without any problems. But we decided that it will be probably better to create two independent countries in 1993.
And in fact, some people that you work with don't even know if their ancestors were Czech or Slovak because the country was called Czechoslovakia. And
Right.
and also, the Czech government currently and all the governments that have citizenship through descent, they rely on superseded laws. So, in other words, they look in time as to what may have happened to your ancestors and where they traveled to, where they naturalized, where they married. So there's a lot of detail that you ask people about just to be sure that they actually qualify, right?
Right, that's right. So until 1993, the citizenship laws were basically same for both Czech Republic and Slovakia, and now they are a little bit different. But they, as you said, they still rely on the Czechoslovak citizenship law that was applying before. So we need to take it into account in both cases.
And Jakub, I know the answer to this question, but maybe people that are watching us don't. Can you be both Slovak and Czech?
Uh, so theoretically, both governments are trying to prevent this scenario, but the answer is yes, you can. For example, if one of your parents is Czech and one is Slovak, and they both have their, passport, they both have their citizenship sorted out, and now they have a baby. The baby is both Czech and Slovak citizen. But if your ancestors emigrated from Czechoslovakia, let's say 70, 80 years ago, both governments are trying to determine if you are Czech or Slovak and not to grant you both citizenships. But theoretically, it's possible.
Yeah. And we're not talking about Slovak citizenship today, but it's a process that's much, much harder and like very convoluted. And the Czech government has been asking to provide certificates from the Slovak government that the person isn't Slovak, right? So
in some cases, they used to be more strict. Now they are not so strict, but if they have some doubts, like for example, your grandfather was Slovak, your grandmother was Czech, Czech government is willing to grant you citizenship, but they want to be sure that you won't be applying to Slovak government at the same time and won't receive both citizenships, which is, maybe a little unusual, but it's their approach to this.
Yeah. It is what it is. So just lastly on this slide, Jakub, with citizenship through naturalization, sorry. So this is for people that were not born Czech citizens. So it could be anybody. So anybody can move to the Czech Republic and work and live there and become a citizen through the process of naturalization. Or in fact, people that cannot claim through descent because their families left too early, or there's that period of 20 years we mentioned. What does citizenship through naturalization look like in the Czech Republic?
So as you mentioned, anyone can become a Czech citizen. But if you don't have Czech ancestry or you have Czech ancestry too far in the history, then you have to go through naturalization. It usually requires of stay at the territory of the Czech Republic, usually about 5 to 8 years. Then you have to pass the Czech language test and test from Czech history. And that's pretty much it. You also have to prove that you don't have any criminal records and that you have a stable job. Usually people say that the language test is the hardest part, but in fact, only A2 level or B1 level in some cases is enough. So you don't have to, speak like a native. But also it's logical that you have to be able to, let's say, order some food or something in the Czech Republic. So yeah, there is a language test if you want to go through naturalization, but it's important to stress that if you are going through descent, there is no language test. So if you have Czech ancestry, you don't have to pass the language test. You don't even have to speak Czech.
Brilliant. Okay, we'll move on to the next slide. All right, take us through that. What are some of the obstacles?
Yeah, so basically the first point is the main obstacle, I think, and so some of the documents are missing. Usually that's normal because through the history, I mean, it's very rare that the clients have all the documents of their ancestors because usually their ancestors came with nothing. Or just with their passport or birth certificate. And we are able to solve this. We are able to get the documents from the Czech Republic, both the birth marriage certificates, residence cards, residence records, and we are also able to help clients get the documents of their ancestors from, for example, United States, Australia, Canada. So all these documents are necessary. Sometimes it's even the case that the birth certificate is missing, for example, in the Czech Republic, because the book of birth is lost, but we are able to help the clients with this as well and help to create some reconstructive birth certificate based on residential records and so on. So for us, it's usually not a problem when the documents are missing. It just takes some time until we obtain the documents, but we are able to help the clients with this. Uh, Citizenship laws during emigration. That was sometimes the case, especially during the communist period, when, for example, someone escaped from communist Czechoslovakia and the regime tried to punish them by taking their citizenship from them. But that's, in this case, you are still eligible, so it's not a problem. Dual citizenship was interesting thing is that Czechoslovakia basically allowed dual citizenship throughout their history with only two exceptions. They didn't allow dual citizenship with United States. For some reason, they have an international treaty that you cannot be both Czechoslovak and American citizen, but that's not a problem nowadays because you can go through the declaration route in that way. And also for a short period between 1993 and 2013, it was also not allowed. But again, if your ancestor or you yourself lost Czech or Czechoslovak citizenship in this period, you can just get it back by declaration. So it's not a problem. And the name changes, these are sometimes very funny because you cannot even say what the Czech original name was when they came, for example, to United States and changed their name to something more English sounding. But from our experience, officials at the citizenship department are understanding, and if the date of birth or place of birth match and the surname match, then they see it's the same person.
Yeah. And in fact, we can't share the names of these people, but we have a couple of, or more than a couple of really famous people amongst our clients. And by looking at the names today, you would not know that they have Czech heritage, right?
Exactly. So it's completely different name sometimes, and it's funny. But yeah, that was just normal because people wanted to fit in better in the society when they came to somewhere. So and officials have a lot of understanding for this. So usually we are able to overcome this hurdle obstacle as well.
And talk to us about Germans and Hungarians.
Yes, so Germans, so there was a lot of Czechoslovak citizens of German nationality or German speaking before the Second World War. But because of the complicated, let's say, relationship between Czechs and Germans during the Second World War, most of them were expelled to Germany in 1945, 1946. There's still a law in Czech Republic that people or descendants of these German Czechoslovak citizens cannot get their citizenship back. But actually there are a few exceptions, and especially if your ancestors lost Czechoslovak citizenship before the Second World War, so before the war even started, then we are usually able to get Czech citizenship back for you. But if they lost it during this, let's say, mass deportation of Germans back to Germany, then it could be a problem. Similar situation applied to Hungarians, but this was in Slovakia. And in Slovakia now, it's usually not such a problem. And there are ways how you could get your Slovak citizenship back if your ancestors were Slovak Hungarians. So this is mostly for Czech Germans, yes.
Yeah. So there are all these complexities in the laws, and sometimes they are logistics at play, sometimes politics, and other times it's just the law itself. Thank you. Anouk, if you could move us on to the next slide. Thank you. And we've already mentioned bits and pieces of it, that it's one of the most efficient and fastest pathways to citizenship for any of the European countries that we work with. But can you tell us step by step what happens, when people come to you?
Yes. So first people send us or we send them a blank family tree to fill in. Then they send it back to us and we assess for free if they are eligible for Czech citizenship or not. So we tell you right away if you qualify or not. And if you qualify, then we will start to help you to get all the documents, both in your home country and both in the Czech Republic. We are working, we have a research team here, so we are getting all the documents. And we prepare your application. You send us the documents we need from you, and we prepare the rest. We prepare translations, Czech notary copies, forms, and then we submit your application to the Czech Citizenship Department in Prague. then from that point, it should take 6 months, but it's even faster. Usually, it takes like 3 months usually, and then you are approved, and you will receive a Czech citizenship certificate, confirming that you are a Czech citizen. And with this certificate, you can apply for a passport at your local Czech embassy. That's pretty much it. So it's very fast, as you said, because for some other citizenship, it's even years. Yes.
And it's still a paper submission, right? So some of our clients think that you can lodge it digitally, but you can't file it
No,
electronically.
unfortunately, and also all the documents needs to be physical, let's say. So it's also interesting, maybe in the 21st century, but it's how it is. And so all the papers need to be physical with apostille certification, which is also interesting. And then but you will also receive a physical citizenship certificate, so it's fair.
That's right. And once you do that, you also need to get a Czech birth and marriage certificate. Is that right?
Right. So there's the registration of Czech birth and marriage. So you will also receive Czech birth and marriage certificate, which would make your life easier if you would decide to live in the Czech Republic with your spouse, for example. And that takes like extra 6 weeks. Yes.
Yeah. And after that, you just apply for a passport, which is valid for 10 years, and you just renew it. So this is like a one-off procedure that Jakub has explained that you need to go through. And there's actually no limit on generations as such downwards, meaning that if you are Czech, then your kids and your grandkids and everybody else will also be Czech. So look, we've covered the recent changes, and I do want to allow time for questions. But what would be some of the common mistakes that people make, apart from not working with Polaron? And what are some of the things that we can do or people can do to make things faster?
So probably I think one of the biggest mistake is to submit incomplete application, because even if you would qualify, if you don't have enough documents to prove it, then your application can be even rejected, which can demotivate you. But actually, you could qualify. But if the clerk doesn't see all the necessary documents, he or she will just reject your application, which is a shame, because you could qualify, but unfortunately they are not looking for ways how you could qualify. We or you would have to look for it. So I think this is the most common mistake. And also maybe submitting documentation without proper translations, because all the documents need to be translated into Czech language. And or sometimes if they are documents from United States, they need to have an apostille certificate. So submitting documents without an apostille, basically, that's these three top mistakes.
Yeah. And I think the other mistake, which we do not make, is to argue with the government. We just go with the flow, give them what they ask for, and have a good
Yes,
relationship with the
exactly.
case officers.
Yeah, sometimes they want maybe a little bit more documents than you think is necessary, but they just want to make sure that they are not making any mistake. Like, for example, they want to be sure that you are not a Slovak citizen, that your ancestors really lived in the Czech Republic, and we have nothing to hide. So it's the best idea to just give.
And we bring them boxes of chocolates. Not really. We don't. They're not allowed to take gifts, in case people are wondering. All right. So look, we have about 6 minutes for questions. So I will pass it on to Anouk to give us that opportunity. Over to you.
All right, so we have one question from Rob, who asks, will this new law allow Slovaks that left in the 1920s the ability to apply for citizenship?
Slovaks. So this new law will be approved in the Czech Republic. So they will mainly allow people from Czech part of Czechoslovakia to apply for Czech citizenship. But if your ancestors, as you said, emigrated in 1920s from Slovakia, there is a high chance that you are already qualifying for Slovak citizenship. So I would suggest that you contact us via our form on our website, and we can take a look on your claim for free. Because from what you are saying, there is a high chance that you could qualify for Slovak citizenship already and not have to wait for the approval of the new Czech law.
because the Slovak laws were changed quite recently, but also they had another go and that hasn't passed, right? Just recently.
Yes, exactly. So now, yeah, the last change was in 2022. Time flies, so that's almost 3 years. But yeah, but there were some, questions about the interpretation. But now it looks good that a lot of people are actually qualifying. So yeah, chances are high from what I heard. But yeah, we would have to take a look at the family tree to be 100% sure, of course. Yeah.
Brilliant, brilliant. And as you mentioned, we do not charge for the initial assessment, and there's no pressure to buy anything from us. We look at your family situation in a lot of detail because for most cases, we can actually guarantee the outcome of the application. So there's a lot of back and forth at the initial stages, and we get you to the point where you are very clear about your eligibility. So that's the kind of work that Jakub and his team do. All right, we have time probably for one or two more questions. Go, Anouk.
Yes. Someone says, I have Czech ancestry on my maternal and paternal side. Can I choose one side on which to apply, or do I have to do it with both sides?
So that's a very interesting question. If basically when we have situation like this, we are proving to the Czech. We prefer to show the Czech government both sides in case they wouldn't be satisfied with one of the sides, and they would, for example, say, "Well, you are not qualifying through paternal side, but you can go by maternal side." So it's worth proving both sides, and usually they want to see both sides. So I hope that's the answer. If the client, for example, thinks, I don't know, true maternal side is true mother and paternal side is the great grandfather, then we can for sure choose the maternal side because that's closer and the chances are much higher in that case. But if it's more or less similar generation and so on, we usually include both sides in the application. And yeah, if they qualify through both sides, that's even better. Yeah. You are muted, Eva.
I do it at least once per webinar, so sorry, but you only really need one parent, but it can strengthen your application if you have both. And also there are complexities such as marriage for women that sometimes excluded people from being able to pursue citizenship. So even though your mother and your father might be Czech and you think you qualify under both, you may not because of how the laws operated. All right,
That's
one
correct.
more question. Anouk.
Yeah, there are a few questions, but yeah, there are multiple. So, but someone else is asking, does Slovakia have a temporary residency requirement?
That's right. In Slovakia, it's very interesting. In some cases, when you are qualifying to more, let's say, distant ancestors, like a great grandfather or grandfather, there is a temporary residency requirement. But this is very interesting. You can actually, or we are applying for a temporary temporary residence at the same time as a citizenship. They allow this, and they don't actually require you to live there. They just want you have to some address registered. So this is, I think I don't have really an opinion about it, but it's interesting because they stated this condition in the law, but on the other hand, they allow you to apply for the residency together with the citizenship, and they don't even require you to be there physically. So our audience is right. There is such a requirement, but it's really just a formality, in fact. Yeah.
Quite flexible. Okay, guess what? We're out of time, and I have to catch a plane. I'm working from our New York office today, but I'm catching a plane back to Australia, everyone. These questions that have been asked but haven't been answered, we will collect. And it just means that we have to meet with you again soon, Jakub, so that we can explore this. There seems to be a lot of interest, and you're such an expert in the field. So a big, big thank you. And to you and Anouk. And Anouk, if you could just put our contact details on the screen. We're always happy for you to reach out to us and discuss your individual circumstances. So just feel free and contact us. Is my message.
Yes. thank you very much for
All right.
inviting me
Thanks,
today.
everyone.
Thank you so much for being
Take care.
here.
Bye-bye.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.